Hello and welcome to your first day of class. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we are here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we've designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let me introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Del Hierro. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as a full-time instructor and course coordinator in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Del Hierro earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration, and for student motivation. He is a passionate advocate for student success. Next, we have Tasha Cureton. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as Senior Manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member of the Committee on Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. Joining us during the Q&A session will be Christina Sines, a Student Success Advisor 3 in our Center for Student Success. She has held a number of roles during her 8 years at Trident, including Supervisor of Graduate Advisors. Her dedication to meeting student needs is demonstrated through compassionate, active listening, seeking to understand and striving to act in the best interest of her students. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of this webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, find a question box, type in your question, and then hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentations. Now, I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment. And so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun. And this will help with your motivation. This is something, you know, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, you know, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you. It's not to be upset with you. It's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed. And that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. Hopefully you've built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number. Note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning. So I'd always ask your teacher, but the key is I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper, maybe by the weekend, so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so We all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident Trident4careers@trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers@trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey everyone, good afternoon. Hopefully having a great day and a great start to your session. Okay, apologies about that. We're just having some technical difficulties here, and hopefully we haven't sorted out. For those of you who had some issues viewing the webinar at the start, don't worry, we've recorded it and we'll have that link out to you later this week. Do want to introduce a couple new faces. First, Christina Sines, Student Success Advisor 3 from our Center for Student Success, is joining us for the first time this session. And we have Giselle Castro, who is Student Success Advisor 2, who joined Trident in 2016, and she primarily works with undergraduate military students. So welcome everyone. And we got a few questions in already. And as a reminder for those of you who want to know where to submit questions, just look on your screen, find the control panel, go on the right-hand side and go about halfway down, type in your questions there, and we'll deliver them to the panel that way. So without further ado, let's get started. And first question, this one is for you, Gisela. And perfect question, given the students you work with. Given that my orders can often change at the drop of a hat, and I may need to spend a couple weeks out in the field, what advice would you give me on communicating that to my professor when it comes to assignments and making sure they're turned in on time?
Yes, so thank you so much for your question. Great question. You know, as we talked about today, communication is very important. And so, you know, I would always, you know, advise maybe at the start of a session, especially if you happen to know your schedule, you know, coming up, to inform your student success advisor and your professor as well, that, you know, you have, you know, X assignment coming up, right? And of course, look at your session, your schedule, your assignment due dates, and plan accordingly. You know, again, you know, going back to time management, right? We want to make sure that we know what's happening, what's going on, and so, you know, just let us know. We do have extension options, so, you know, in the event that you may need additional time to complete assignments, you know, again, you know, reach out to your advisor. You know, we'll come up with a plan. We'll let you know what the requirements for an extension are, so that you have those required assignments submitted prior to the extension deadline. And then, you know, we just kind of, you know, let the professor know this is our plan. I'm working with my advisor, and that way we can make sure that you are still able to successfully complete your course. Okay, but be assured that we will work with you. But again, make sure that you communicate with us what's happening, so that we can help you.
Okay, I guess to clarify, the first point of contact on these and similar questions should be student success advisor like yourself or, you know, Christina, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Christina, do you have anything else to add on that, given that you likely worked with many military students over the years on things to consider when it comes to any any TDYs or any deployments or anything? It sounds to me like it's best for students to try to be as proactive as possible in these situations.
Yeah, very much so. I would say, especially too, if trying to work ahead on like discussions, if you could. Students, sometimes that's where timeliness points can be lost. So if you can, even working on them ahead of schedule and, finding ways to still post them depending on what the internet access is like where, the soldier may be at. But trying to coordinate that sometimes can be the part that's, you want to try to think ahead on, and then try to get the assignments into the professors as you can. But interacting with the other students is important too, if you can, in real time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you both. Next question. This one's for you, Christina. Sorry, wrong question up. Okay. Will the Trident APA Basics Resource Guide be what professors fully expect from students in assignments?
Yes. For undergrad and masters, that's normally what they're following. So that's what they should be. It's in my resources in the portal. So the APA Basics, and then there's also a writing style guide that can be pretty helpful too. So I'd say between both of them, they're good resources to both use.
Okay, thanks. And if anyone has any questions on how to access that, just let us know. We'll get you that link or direct you to your advisor so you know exactly how to find it. Because speaking, as a former Trident student myself, that APA guide is very important. And a follow-up question for you, Christina, on this is: are all faculty members consistent with how they apply APA rules and assignments?
I would say they follow it, APA formatting, usually pretty closely. I would just say most of the time professors will have preferences on, maybe how, depending on what the assignment expectations are, just how they want you to format it. So it could vary from class to class, but the formatting should be the same, just maybe the assignment expectations could vary, or depending on whether you need to input tables and things like that. So a math class versus an English class is going to have different expectations. So, but by and large, yes, they're following the APA 6th edition.
Yeah, and I guess to speak for Dr. Del Hierro, since he wasn't able to make it, is that it's really important, in addition to solidifying your relationships early with your advisors like Gisela and Christina, is to do the same thing with professors, because sometimes professors can just look at things differently. So it's best to be on the same page, and keep in mind too is that a lot of those professors from a networking standpoint can be good contacts for you after graduation.
Absolutely.
And Gisela, is it okay for students to start turning in assignments for a module before the current module is due? For instance, if we're currently in Module 1, can I turn in both Module 1 and Module 2 assignments?
I would say check with your professors. I know some professors, don't prefer it. So, and not that it would count against you in any way, but I would just say ask the professor ahead of time. Again, in the case that it's a soldier, and he's trying to work ahead, right? Because he knows that he will be going on TDY during the Module 3 due date. Then absolutely, right? But definitely check with your professor, just even to just give them a heads up, or ask if it's okay. But it's not wrong. It's you can. Yeah.
And Christina, anything to add?
I would say too, in terms of just in what the students, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Or no, skip me for right now. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think I will say this is that you want to consider human nature in this as well, in that there's a number of us out there, whether it's just who we are or just the numerous hats we all wear as adults, is that trying to avoid waiting until Sunday night. One of you two is going to have to confirm time for me for the due date for assignments, but avoiding turning in the assignment 5 minutes before due date, because I know professors can sometimes be a little perturbed about that, and when it comes to working ahead too, the other thing to consider is that feedback from professor on a module 1 assignment may be worth waiting for as you go into module 2, because there may be something to build off of, or there may be something that may be an opportunity for you to improve. So it might be good to be patient instead of just trying to get everything finished, unless there is extenuating circumstances. So, I mean, any other suggestions to add to that, Giselle or Christina?
No, that is basically what I was going to say, though. Sorry. Yeah, if you are going to work ahead, is always to let the professor know, because sometimes, especially the session-long project, can be an assignment that goes through the whole, session. So, and that definitely builds on each other. So I think those are times when you don't want to get ahead of yourself. Otherwise, you may have to end up doing more work in the long run.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going there, but I guess that's what happens when you work with someone for so long. You get to know how they think.
Yes,
and
very much.
Giselle, I'm going to send this one your way. Is that where can we have access to or how do we get access to our student success advisors, and what exactly are they allowed to assist us in? And I guess to clarify where I think the student is going with the first part of the question is that, I guess, when does the handoff from advisor to student success advisor happen?
So the first 2 weeks, you just started March today, right? So during these next 2 weeks, you'll be with the admissions advisor. So they will still remain your point of contact. Any questions, that they will be able to help. After your first module, basically, after these first 2 weeks, the admissions advisor does, basically send the student over to our department, which is Center for Student Success. And so at that point, we then take over and we work with you until the end of your program. And so, you can find our contact information in the portal, as Tasha mentioned. It will be your student success advisor and your student finance advisor who will be listed on there. And so, yeah, we look forward to seeing all of you in the next couple of weeks.
And if you have any questions about who those people are, I believe in the student portal right after you log in, I think it's the bottom right where the names and faces and contact information for all those folks are pictured, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
It says My Support Center, I believe.
Yeah, and those your student success advisors especially be instrumental as you work your way towards graduation. And Christina, this question for you: would it be appropriate to add another elective course to get more ahead on a program? And so the person asked this question, if you could provide a little bit of context, such as how many courses you're currently taking and which program level you're in, aka like bachelor's or master's.
Okay.
And that would help out. But I mean, Christina, from general sense, could you address this?
Yes, of course. So typically the maximum course load at any given time is 3 classes. Typically when students start, we really don't want you to be in more than 2, just because usually you're taking like TUX, which is the introductory course, or some sort of, getting your feet wet class. And then, so mostly 2 is a good way to start, just so that you're, depending on whether you're new to Trident or then there could be some variability if you're maybe continuing on to a master's from a bachelor's. But normally electives, because it also depends on whether we have, all the transcripts in. Sometimes we're still trying to get the degree plan finalized to verify what the requirements are. So, they can be a good way to balance it out. Sometimes with a more difficult class is typically how we advisors would, work with students. And I would always recommend the student to get in touch with their success advisor and just let them know, like, this is the plan that I have in mind. And, how can we still put it in a way that the sequencing is good for the overall, flow of the program. So trying to make sure we can find a path to graduation that's can work for you and, help you graduate when you would like to. So definitely we try to make it work for the student though as much as possible, both Gisela and I and all the success advisors. We always want to make it work for the student to be successful too.
And that's a great point. Balance out the fun with some of the more difficult stuff. It's reminds me of my first session as an MBA student. Organizational management, which is for me fun, and microeconomics, which for me is not fun. So.
Right, that's true too. Some students find certain topics more enjoyable than others, so it's also personal preference for sure. And this student did provide the clarity. Okay. They're currently an associate in the Associate in Homeland Security program, taking English Comp and college math. So I don't know if that will help you provide some extra color to your answer, Gisela, on that. I think Gisela may be better to answer because of working more with that degree level, right, Gisela?
Right. So at this level, I mean, the courses are not, as challenging, if you will. And well, the electives that are added typically are added because we need to make up for, like residency requirement units that may be missing, et cetera. So technically, all those courses listed on in the approved degree plan under the core classes are required courses. Again, we just add electives maybe to satisfy whatever units may be missing. So yeah, I mean, if you take, a humanities, right, elective, a natural science elective, that would be a good balance, with most of the courses in the associates program, I would say. And it also would depend on your personal schedule, your work schedule and any other commitments and obligations that you have along with school. But we definitely do want to keep in mind the maximum course load that's allowed, which is 3 classes at a given time. And well, if you're just starting, we would say, try out, your first just the TUX course, see how it goes, and if you then feel comfortable adding maybe 2 classes the next session, that should be okay. But just talk to us. We'll see, what works best for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we do have a couple more questions, but we'll follow up with those afterwards. Just want to, be mindful of everyone's time. So those people who did submit questions, we have logged those questions, and we'll get back to you after the webinar. So those won't get answered. Want to thank you, Christina, for joining us today, and Gisela. But you get a bit more of Gisela. She's going to share a student success story with us to close out the webinar. So good luck, everyone, this session and beyond. Look forward to seeing you on graduation day. And the floor is yours, Gisela.
Great. Well, welcome again, everyone, to this March session. So, as we've shared today, it's really important to communicate, with both your professors and your advisors, just to make sure that, you are successful students throughout your program. And so I'd like to share just a quick story about one of my students. So as you know, I'm a military undergraduate advisor. So this student in particular is military, and or was, but he did start as a military student. And so, we had to be very mindful, about his commitments and obligations with the military, him going on deployments and TDY, and so we worked very closely together in trying to make sure that every session that was scheduled worked with his work schedule, and along with that, of course, trying to make sure that if there were any last minute assignments that he still was able to complete on time. We got extension options for him, etc. He then retired, and so during that transition, he did get married. He had a baby, and so he actually moved across technically from California to Florida, just to kind of maybe change scenery and just start a new life with his family elsewhere. And so it was a little difficult during this time, but although he fell behind, we still kept in touch, and we made sure that we were able to get him extensions. And so basically, the main thing that we stress in this situation is that students definitely make sure that they reach out to their advisors, just because they're military students, just because they have, obstacles that come their way, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful, right? So, we're here to support you. We're here to make sure that, you complete each course, each session by session. If one given session doesn't work out, then that's okay. We can then just plan for the next. And so make sure that you know the resources that you have, that you are supported. um, this is something that all of us enjoy. We enjoy seeing our students walk the stage at the end of your program, and be able to be part of that journey with you. So definitely take advantage of the resources that you have. And so to conclude, my student is about 2 sessions away from completing his program. It's been a long journey. His baby will probably be about a year old in the next coming months, and so he's very grateful. And as all of you will be likewise, once you near that graduation date. So good luck to all of you. We're really excited to have you here, and we definitely look forward to working with you. And enjoy your time. Have a great day. Thank you.